as is our custom, I'd like past President Michael Bragg to begin our meeting with the Serra vocations. So Mike, if you lead us, please. Do it right from right there, it'd be fine.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. O God, who wills not the death of the sinner, but rather that he can pray and live. Grant, we beseech you, through the intercession of Blessed Mary, the Virgin, Saint Joseph, her spouse, Saint Nicholas, Serra, and all the saints, and increase the laborers for your church, fellow laborers with Christ, strengthen and soothe the spouse for souls, through the same Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Amen. Saint Sarah, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, first item of business is the report from the Credentials Committee. So the chair recognizes the Credentials Committee Chairman, Dan Jones. So, Dan.
Portland, Oregon, USA. After reviewing all the credentials, we have determined that 47 individuals will have a total of 104 votes. 47 individuals, 104 votes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question is on the adoption of the Credentials Committee as reported. Are you ready for the question? Whatever that means. I guess that means, are you ready? Any questions about the adoption of the Credentials Committee? Okay. Can you vote? Call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your voting card. Outstanding. And thank you. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. Affirmative has it, and the Credentials Committee report is adopted. The quorum is established. The proposed rules of order and procedures may be found on page 3 of your delegates book. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the rules as printed. Do I hear a motion?
I heard a motion from Bob Anderson, second from Dan Grady.
All right. And discussion, questions on the acceptance of the rules for the meeting. Call the question. Mike Bragg. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. Oh, I'm just reading what it says. Okay. Those opposed? Thank you. All right. The affirmative has it. Approval of minutes. You'll find the minutes in your book, your board book. Let's see here. Start on page 5, and this will be the minutes of last year's meeting. So, which will include all the business of that meeting that was held in Toronto. So, are there any corrections to the minutes? So.
Motion from Bob Anderson. Is there a second? Second from Dennis Lieber.
All right. All those in favor say, or raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. All right, the chair calls on John Liston, Executive Director, to give his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a great honor and privilege to be with all of you these last few days at this truly remarkable convention. And I would once again like to thank the organizing committee in Thailand, everyone who worked very hard to make this convention a great event, and all of you who traveled, some from fairly close, some from very far, to be here and take part, as well as those who have joined us virtually. Events like this don't just happen. This is a result of years of planning, and that is also indicative of the work of Serra in general. Things don't just happen. They are planned, and there are many, many things that everyone does to contribute to make an event great. So that's something that we as an organization need to focus on. And we need to be aware that the small things we do have large ripples throughout the greater Catholic world. We had Cardinal Willett here who talked about Serra's support of the Symposium on the Theology of the Priesthood. And Serra was a sponsor of that, but we were not a particularly large sponsor. However, our involvement, our efforts brought a further global personality to that event and allowed the Cardinal to come here and share the findings of that symposium throughout Asia. So our work leaves ripples throughout the church, and that's something we need to be mindful of as we move forward. With that, and in the interest of time, I'll conclude my report, and thank you all. God bless.
Okay, are there any questions or any questions directed towards John or related to the report? Okay, I'd like to extend some time to the vocation or the vice presidents of the various committees, and so my first request is that Margot Getty give a presentation as vice president of membership to this group.
It's going to be an oral report, not to exceed 5 minutes, as all of these reports shall not exceed 5 minutes.
Okay, we had a great year. We started with developing and just about implementing Serra Sprint, which is a program designed to engage your club members as well as get vocation resources into the parishes. We implemented and have available and about to post to the websites the Satellite Club Project, which enables clubs to new people that want to become Serrans, but they don't have 25 new members, so they can basically affiliate themselves with an existing club. This is a great way to enable clubs that are in remote areas to prosper, and eventually, hopefully, they'll gain enough new members they can become an official club themselves. In addition, we're working on in addition, we are working to engage new Serra clubs in Germany, Paris, France, maybe Ireland, not so much, and Dubai. And so we're very excited about those opportunities. And if you have any ideas of places that we can get new clubs in other countries, please let me know. I'm very excited about working on that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Good deal. All right, thank you, Margot.
Was there a question for Mr. Anderson?
Oh, you want to be on my committee? Absolutely. No, we don't have any in any of the Arab countries. So we're very excited. This is the way this came about. There was a gentleman, and I went to Medjugorje a few months ago, and I met a gentleman there who's from Dubai. And so we've already had several conversations with him. He's very excited. Now, whether it actually happens, I don't know, but he's very excited about it. So that'll give us a foothold in that part of the world. Oh, it's for India. Oh my gosh, I knew that was so, I'm sorry. We are very excited about starting. We have potentially 2 to 3 new clubs in India, thanks to Jeanette, who's been working very hard with our team to make that happen. So, sorry, Jeanette, there was one more. Oh, yes, Dan.
Is there information going out on these satellite clubs to district governors?
We've already sent it out to the VPs of membership, and I don't think they've been distributed. Like, hopefully they will get further distributed to the clubs. I don't know, Candace, have they been, you didn't get, yes, well, okay. That's okay, never mind. But we'll get.
So the district governors have nothing to do with this then?
No, I haven't sent it to district governors. I've just sent it to the VPs of membership for the various councils. But we'll talk about that later. But thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions of Margot? Thank you, Margot. Appreciate it. Manuel Costa, Vice President of Vocations, will you give your report, please?
When I get closer to 5 minutes, please
I will let you
ring the
know.
bell. Took a little less than 5 minutes, so maybe I will take 6. It has been a privilege to be Serra International Vice President for Vocations for the last 2 years. It has given me the extraordinary opportunity to get to know the most significant vocation programs and activities in the various countries where Serra is present. In fact, we have gathered ideas and suggestions from many countries: Brazil, Canada, Great Britain, India, Italy, Mexico, Nigeria, Paraguay and Uruguay, the Philippines, the United States. And now here in Chiang Mai, I was able to see and experience firsthand the extent, and let me add, the enthusiasm of the vocational activities in Thailand. And the video from Hong Kong also has added to the list. The results were amazing. As I have recently reported to the board, in fact, the board has asked me to share the results of my survey with all councils and all clubs, so that all Serrans around the world can take inspiration and example from programs and ideas of other clubs, the so-called best practices, and at the same time help them feeling part of the whole international Serra community. Therefore, the full report will be translated in different languages and distributed. Today, in a very short time we have, I will only make a couple of considerations and mention a few results of the survey. The first point, the common practice is obviously prayer, first and always universal across all clubs, as it should be. Just think about this. Well, I have written 12,000. Today I heard we are 15,000 Serrans praying, hopefully every day, for vocations, and answering to the call we have heard here in Chiang Mai: come and see, come and go. Yes, indeed, the vocation is a call for each one of us baptized, as we have repeatedly heard in these past couple of days. And more specifically, we Serrans are called to be callers. This means that prayer must be followed by action. Prayer and action, this is what Serra is about. The second consideration is that there are obviously, and as expected, important differences from country to country due to very different cultural and environmental conditions. What works in one country does not necessarily work in others. Much depends on how dioceses and parishes are organized and on whether they have Catholic school or not. Just to give you an example, there is not a single parish in Italy that organizes vocational activities or is running a Catholic school, differently from the United States and here in Thailand as well, as we are Dutch with our hands. A couple of nights were the reality of this Catholic school. However, it becomes clear that the primary attention of everybody across the globe is attention to the youth and their education, starting in the school environment. This is the ground where Serra must operate. Now, just a few quick ideas that came out, and you'll see more details in the report. In the Philippines, the focus is, in fact, on meeting with students, both in public and private schools. One or more seminarians are assigned to assist the Serrans in meeting with the students. In the UK, they organized vocation awareness events in a very organized and meticulous manner. You'll be able to see it in the report. Interesting and worth noting is a parish program of bulletin inserts called 5 Things You Can Do to Promote Vocations. And each one is directed to different audience, parents, grandparents, teacher, parents of elementary school or parents of teenager, so just very, very targeted. In Canada, we all have heard or all know about the Ordinandi Dinner. It's an extraordinary event that is held yearly. Some 1,000 people, mainly students, invited to a dinner in honor to the soon-to-become priest, who in turn present themselves and present their vocations. And also a lot of attention of altar servers, just mentioned for Canada, but across the globe. This is a very good, a lot of attention is given to it. In Mexico, they organize vocation rallies consisting of familiarization activity, including outdoor sport events aimed at learning the basics of different vocations, or teaching the basics of different vocations, especially the priestly one. Noteworthy is a day with. So a priest is accompanied and filmed for an entire day to learn about his life and his realities. This film is then shown to young people to make them understand that priesthood is a feasible life option. In Brazil, they developed the idea of the moment of practice. So at each club meeting, new ideas are proposed and selected to be translated into action, then monitored and reported at subsequent meetings. In India, they hold annual, very popular scripture quiz. Also developed a professionally produced audiovisual program called Leave Your Boat and Follow Me, presented to students with a young priest or nun joining the Serrans to share their vocational stories. In the United States, the Spark program is a flagship of Serra US vocational activities. Not all Serrans around the world are still familiar with this multifaceted program, a resource developed specifically for diocesan vocation directors. Recently, a new program is being added called Serra Sprint, offering a very practical step-by-step guide on how to contribute to the communication development of a vocation culture in parishes and schools. Finally, I will mention Italy, where the focus is on creating opportunities for young men and women to participate in various competitions. We have a national school contest, a photo contest, aimed at encouraging them to reflect on important values in life, including their call to a vocation. Efforts are made to reach out to public school students, which is, as you can imagine, is not easy, as very few Catholic schools are left open in Italy. I repeat, the full report will be translated and shared with all countries. Before concluding, I'd like to express my gratitude to all Serrans that have helped me gathering this valuable information. I thank you for your attention, and let's not forget that Serra is a vocation. So always forward, never back, always ready to serve. And as our presidents like to say, Serra now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments of Manuel? Thank you, Manuel. Outstanding. Maura McQueen, how would you give your report? Vice President of Programs, Internal Programs.
Never begin with an apology, but I'm going to apologize because I must have missed the memo, Mr. President, and didn't realize I was supposed to do this. So I did present, of course, a written report to the board, but I can say sort of briefly what was in that. Programs to me is a little bit of a conundrum because it is internal, and when I hear Emmanuel read out that list of activities in terms of vocations, and it really strikes me, that's the meat of Serra, that's what we all like to do, we all like to be engaged in those activities. Programs, nearly everybody has the same format. in terms of how we actually structure the internal meetings. So we are talking usually about having a mass, usually about having a meal, usually about having a speaker. And I do realize that the importance of programs relies very much on the maintaining the interest of our members, having them engaged at a really deep spiritual level in terms of being a Serran. And so the formative aspect of vocations, I think, is extremely important in terms of we're promoting vocations, but we can really only promote vocations to the extent that we ourselves are well formed. And of course, formation is also an ongoing project and an ongoing prospect, a necessary ongoing formation for all of us. So a couple of years ago, what I did do was send out a survey, which I know is an inadequate way very often to find out what's going on. But just, I couldn't assume that although there is a structure, that the structure would actually be all the same. So I just asked the vice presidents of programs from the national councils to respond to a very brief survey, about 10 questions, about how they did handle the programs, whether they knew within their own distinct countries what was going on. Did they receive reports, say, from district governors, from the club VPs of programs, and I tried to send it out in the different languages using Google Translate, etc., which is not always wonderful, but for most people, Malena, for example, in Mexico, thought, yeah, well, it's a pretty good start anyway. So I did it that way and was kind of surprised at the results. Some of the results were very, very positive. There was an internal structure in the country itself that allows for the program, for the VP programs in the clubs to report to the district governors. And this is all really not so much to have reports, for themselves, but again in terms of best practices. How are we going to know what might be different in terms of formation unless we're able actually to gather some information? So there was a little bit of a revelation to me at some levels that nearly all the clubs said, no, there are no reports from the vice presidents of programs. No, there is nothing that's sent up to the district governor. No, the district governors do not send a report to their national VPs of programs. So I thought, well, there we go. This is a very good place then to start. So the next survey I sent out was more or less along the same lines. So what I'm seeing there is, and I don't mean to sound negative, I just think this is a very important area, and if we really do want to expand the horizons of what's possible, then that information is absolutely necessary. So I'm just saying now that I don't have all that information, I have some. I will just mention Australia because it was just exemplary in terms of its reporting system, so that the national president understands what's going on at the program level down through all the different clubs. And I would look very much to them the next time something like this goes out in terms of formulating maybe a different kind of survey, maybe a better pointed questionnaire with relevant information. But it is all meant to be, again, at the service of the bigger picture, that international aspect, to bring together some different points of views from different countries. And as usual, the only way that can be done is to actually gather the information. So I was hoping that the VPs in the different countries, the national VPs, would take some interest in that and try to develop it a little further. One last point on this was that it dawned on me, and it didn't seem to have dawned in our Canadian Council, that Canada doesn't have those 4 VPs at the national level. So we've moved to remedy that, and so at our next AGM in Canada, we're hoping to pass that proposal that we too have 4 VPs. So while in a way it sounds as if I'm critiquing other countries for not reporting, we didn't even have a national VP of programs ourselves. So there is some movement in that direction.
Thank you. Thank you, Maura. Any questions or comments to Maura? Great, thank you. Thanks for your report. All right, next it'll be Bob Campney will be giving his treasurer's report.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, this audit report is the first time that it's ever been combined with the National Council for the United States. Why we do that is something that started a couple of years ago in concept for transparency purposes. And also the offices, just keep in mind the offices, including payroll and rent and all of that, is included all under that one office. So it's a combined audit report. The important thing about an audit report is you want what's called a clean opinion. That is certainly this. So page 1 and 2 of the audit report, 1 I don't think has a number on it, but it's page 1 and 2 has the opinion. It's in your book, is it page 17? Okay, page 17 starts with the audit opinion, and that's that's the audit report. It's a clean audit opinion by our auditors, Porter Brown LLC. On this, and it presents, what it states is it presents fairly the financial position of these entities. More importantly, the auditors represent that they encountered no significant difficulties nor disagreements with Serra management. That's a standard position that you take, and it's important that it says no disagreements. So, what's the page, John? For this would be on the supplemental page. So it'd be supplemental. Is there a page number on this? So go to the supplemental page.
It's on the screen, not in their books.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can't speak from that.
All right, there is a supplemental page. Thank you. So it's not in your books, but the supplemental page simply lays out, and you're going to see it here on this screen. Serra, this is a combined audit, so why do we split this out? You've got a Serra International audit there on the left, Serra National Council. There's elimination entries, and then totals. So what's that really telling you is that all of that is all combined. Pardon? Oh, I went back. The next page then shows the revenues and support, again, by those same breakdowns. So Serra International on the left, Serra's National Council for the U.S., eliminating entries, total, and then there's 2 sections, donor restrictions and without donor restrictions. The important thing about all of this is it just shows the bottom line, so net assets at the end of the year. Change in assets for Serra International is a negative $34,000. Effectively, that means a profit or loss, and in this case, it's a loss. If you look, the depreciation was for the year was $25,000. So the net loss is only $9,000 at that point as far as cash is concerned on the U.S. Council. I'm sorry, on the Serra International. Questions? That's it on the audit.
Okay, are there any questions on the audit report? Okay, the treasurer's report will be filed for audit. What's that? Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Okay, next we'll be going to the amendments, proposed amendments. So, proposed amendments are on page 10. Okay. Okay, sure. So the first one is the proposed amendments. Thank you. And then the chair calls upon Kirk Medico, the chairman for the Constitution and Bylaws Committee, to give his report, please.
So the first amendment is to the bylaws is to establish the Consolidated Administrative Office Committee. That is to make what is already an appointed committee into a standing committee that will be listed in the bylaws. So the combined office is a committee, takes the president, the past president, president-elect of the three organizations that utilize the Chicago office. That's the USA Council, the Serra International, and the Serra International Foundation. So those people compose that committee. The chairman would be and is the Serra International president. And so this is basically making it a standing committee. The bylaws committee is for this motion.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. And is there a motion that's...
Since this came from committee, it requires a motion but no second. I see Mr. Jones motioning to approve.
Okay, so Dan Jones has moved that the committee submittal for this proposal or for this this amendment to the bylaws be considered. So any discussion or questions about this? Yes, Mike Bragg, you want to come up to the microphone?
Very briefly, I just wanted to explain some history for those that aren't familiar. Several years ago, the United States Council, Serra International, and the Foundation all combined for one office in one building in one location, with John Liston as the executive director for 17 different organizations, or at least 3. What this committee has done since then, as an ad hoc committee, is it gets all the leaders of Serra together to advise John and be a sounding board for John, and all the leaders of each organization can kind of communicate at the highest levels. We've had this committee for some time. It was decided and it's proposed that this just become a permanent committee to operate, and so it's very clear, who's on it and what it does. So I'm in support of it.
Okay, any other comments or questions about the proposed bylaw amendment? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question, and I want to remind everyone that it'll require a 2/3 vote approval, affirmative vote to make this pass for a bylaws amendment as such. So those in favor of the proposed amendment to make the Combined Administrative Office Committee a standing committee, please raise your voting cards. Thank you, and please you can return them. And then those that are opposed. Okay, we have 2 votes opposed, and any abstentions? Okay, thank you, the motion carries. Okay, thank you. Next proposal, Kurt, you want to give the proposal for the next one as well?
The second amendment to the bylaws would be for a dues increase of the standard, what is now in the bylaws, the annual dues of $47 for Serra International. And then the different councils pay a percentage of that based on the PPP of their country. So it's a lesser amount, but it's based on that number that's in the bylaws, which is now $47. The amendment would raise that by $4 to a total of $51 that would be put in the bylaws as the new number.
Kurt, effective when?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion to move this forward? Dan Grady moves, so moves. Okay. So since now questions, any answer or any questions or comments from the floor related to this proposal? Okay, see none. Oh yeah, Jim?
Not related to the proposal as such.
Yeah.
I have delegates in Fox, and I think the vote is going to be split. As a point of order, how do I vote split?
Mr. President, may I? So, as per Robert's Rules of Order, delegates are empowered to vote. When you're given a proxy, you may vote however you see fit. So, having a split vote doesn't make sense within that context. And part of the reason we have these meetings is to allow for discussion and conversation. So, if there are questions that need to be answered or things that need to be resolved, now is the time to raise them so you can make an informed decision.
So your vote 2. Your vote will carry 2, okay?
Or you could abstain.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or? Yeah, we.
But he's one person, so he's carrying the vote, and he should be voting as he sees fit as an individual. So unless he himself is split on the issue, in which case he should abstain, he can't split. Because if we would allow people to direct, you need to vote yes, you need to vote no, then we could just do this as a survey rather than having the meeting to have the discussion and make an informed decision.
Well, what do you know? Willard?
Is this increase in use affect Canada anyways?
Yes, it will. It'll affect all the councils and all the clubs. So proportionately, Canada's dues will go up according to the BBP calculation. And so 8.5% will be the increase of all the respective council dues. And so Canada's dues will go up as well. PPP is hard for people with PPP problems to say PPP. It's purchase price parity.
The PPP is a table put out by the IMF, which rates the purchasing power parity of nations. So we'll take a basket of goods that say cost $100 in the US and see what that same basket of goods would cost in other countries. So in Singapore, that basket might cost $110. In Nigeria, that same basket might cost $25. And Serra International prorates its dues based on the economic strength of each country in a way of trying to fairly assess dues to everyone.
And then Emmanuel Cosa will be having some sessions on this that'll last into next year's convention. So it's complicated, as they say, but that's basically it. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments about the proposed bylaw? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. So the motion on the floor is to approve the bylaw proposal to increase the dues, the United States dues, $4 from $47 to $51 annual. And so please be prepared to, those in favor, please raise your cards. So now we get to count. So, all right, so, you want to count, Bob? Or this is a vote for? Yeah, for a dues increase. Yeah, those in favor of a dues increase. Okay. 104. Okay, 53. All right, so bring your cards out. Those opposed, please raise your cards, please. Those opposed. Those abstain. Two. Okay. So the motion carries. Majority votes. We know that we had 2 abstain, none against, and the rest were for. So that's what I know. Okay? Any other questions about that? Everybody clear with that? All right, so I did not see any against, and I saw 2 abstain. Am I correct? Okay, all right, the motion carries. Okay,
For those wondering about the math, it seems that the delegate from Thailand, who's carrying a number of votes, is not here. That's why that's working out, I heard, just to clear the air.
good to know. Okay, thank you for that. Very good. Next on the agenda here is the approval of the budget. So Bob, you want to do the presentation on that, please?
Page 34, I got that one this time. So given what you see on that, on your screen or on page 34, we put on the far right hand, we put 2 columns. One, if the budget approval is not, if there's no increase, it was voted down, and the second on the right is with the $4 increase. So effectively what you're going to see is the revenue is very similar to what we had in if you look on the unaudited statement for 2022, $367,000 revenue, and we're using $399 with the approved vote for the $4 increase. Effectively, the $4 is estimated at $37,000. At the end of the day, then, we have a loss from a surplus deficit, far right-hand column, with the $4 increase column. It's a $26,000 loss built here, but you remove the depreciation, and you're at $1 budgeted loss with the $4 increase. Any questions? I'm sorry, 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000.
Thank you.
Add 3 zeros. Questions or comments about the proposed budget? Yes, Dan Grady.
Real quick question. Pursuant to the discussion about the CAO, so the 3 organizations all contributed to agreeing on the budget numbers more or less.
This is just Serra International's budget.
Right. But the foundation and the council are sharing in the support, correct? Sharing in usage of budget, of the office.
There is an allocation of payroll, and of course, yes, so they're all involved in that. There is dependence in the past. So the foundation has provided $50,000 in revenue to Serra International, and so we're all going, and you can see on here that is still included, yes.
Okay, other questions or comments about the proposed budget? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the question. So, I need a motion, that's right. So, sorry, thanks for your report, Bob. So I need a motion to accept this, and so I need a motion first. Sorry?
Motion from Mike Downey,
Mike
second
Downey.
from Bob Anderson.
Okay. All right, we've called the question on this. And so those in favor of the proposed budget say, or raise your cards, please. Okay, and thank you, you can return them. And now those opposed and those abstain. Okay, the motion carries and the budget carries. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. All right, next on the agenda is the election of international officers and trustees. So I mean the page again, and I think it's the end.
The last one.
Last page. 37. Okay, on page 37 this is the slate of officers, and so maybe Mike Bragg, would you please present the slate of officers?
I would be happy to, Mr. President.
So my name is Michael Bragg. I am past president of Serra International, chairman of the nominating committee as per usual custom, and this is my last official act as past president before I go off into the sunset. So The nominating committee did meet in January of this year at the same time as the rally was occurring in Dallas, Texas. We had a very good committee. We met in person. Several members of the committee are here. I would ask them to stand if they are here. We had Jerry Haig, Dan Shoemaker, Joe Deloy, Fran Palmer Barrett, Dick Weisenberger, and Sally O'Neill. So you can look around. They all worked very hard on this. I served as chairman. We submitted a slate of nominees, which was approved by the board of Serra International, and I will read this off quickly. We are recommending and moving that the president be Kurt Medico from Texas. The president-elect be Dr. Moria McQueen from Canada. The vice president be Emmanuel Costa from Italy. Margot Getty from Texas, USA. Anthony Mangione from Toronto, Canada. Robert Rudman from Nashville, Tennessee. We recommend the secretary be John Halloran from Louisiana, USA. Treasurer be Campney from Omaha, Nebraska, USA. Past president will be Greg Schweitz, also from Omaha. The trustees will be Christiane Arce Sandoval, Joanne Brezoir, Jeanette D'Souza, Adam Lara, Ann Larkins, Giuseppe Macaulay, Milena Salas de Sol, and Nippon. What? How do you say it? Yeah, that guy. And then trustees with 1 year remaining on their term, so they aren't really up for election, but they're part of the slate, will be Jesse Gallegos, Fred Georges, and Roberto Saban. We would move, or we are recommending to this to the delegates here that be the slate for the next year.
So you have heard the report of the International Nominating Committee. Since there were no additional nominees to the committee's slate of candidates, the election shall be by voice vote. All those in favor of the International Nominating Committee's proposed slate, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Really? Yeah. The ayes have it and the slate is elected. Congratulations on the new board. As is our tradition, Serra International President Kurt Medico shall be escorted by the past presidents of Serra International to take the stage.
Speech. It's quite an honor to say the least, and as Dennis said, my father would really be proud looking down at him right now. Former president.
Yeah.
So just a few announcements before we close out the meeting. Mass will be in the Empress Tower Hotel, which is the building between this one and the Premier Hotel where many of us are staying. So Mass will begin promptly at 5, and we will begin the video of Serra around the world as soon as this meeting concludes. Is there any further business to come before the convention? The banquet will be upstairs in this building. Yes. All right. So, since there is no further business, the 80th Convention of Serra International will adjourn. Thank you all.